Got us a Cruiser Aire. It's a dirty Cruiser Aire. This one definitely needs a bubble bath. Let's go upstairs and take a look at this monster here. This fifth wheel. So we just go up here, we kind of note, like I do on all the other videos, show you what we got, what we're looking at. First thing we're looking at is the way the shoulder's all vented up, so we're going to need to fabricate new shoulder for sure. Then Skylight's missing here, Skylight's missing there. Never seen one of these big old stacks on here before either. So you can see also right here how these all pop loose. Some of it could have been stretched out from this tree branch that he hit it with, but still some of it's all. A lot of times they do not glue these down. I say a lot of times, I mean almost all the time. So that's pretty good thickness of metal actually, so that surprises me. But still, boy, he hit some tree branches down the way. So this is what you got, robot. So when you look at this one here, if you were to go inside, up inside, you got the square plastic piece in your vent. There's a screw in each corner. You drop it down, and you may see this hanging down inside there. If you're wondering what kind of material you have, RV material, RV. This is rubber. Now, our membrane is white and black on the backside. Okay, the base is black. But on the RV industry, this is what you get. So, big difference. I had one of those, who was it there? One of the guys on YouTube were saying how you can identify your roof. But if you were to see ours, you'd say, hey, it's got rubber on there. It's not. Ours is TPO. It's thermoplastic. So that's what we're going to do, is take all these covers off. And you can see all that booger on there. I don't like seeing all that. It tends to trap water. You don't want to do all that. Same thing with this. And I could show you that antenna over there. So I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm going to find out here pretty soon. I've never really seen one of those on there. So we got full scaffolding. As you can see, if you're about to hire somebody or bring you somewhere and they don't have full scaffolding, they're working off of ladders, you don't need to be at that shop. That's not a professional shop. That's a, hey, I need some beer money shop. So this here is a leak. So what happens is right there, the water will trickle down that wire, go through there, go in here, and this is right into the ceiling. That's right in there. And you can see they've had some issues, and they sealed everything but that. So maybe that would have helped. Doesn't feel so bad, but we're still going to peel up the roof deck and everything to see what's going on with it. You can see over here we've had more caulking added, different colors, and it's a shame, but you just it's not done right. It doesn't stick well, and all you need is a little bit of breach, and then the water will find its own way from there. So looks like got a broken cap, and other than that, we're going to start tearing it up. It looks like just regular plywood there. That's some good plywood for the weather. I made it down here. That's all that matters. I don't even know where this fine gent is from. I haven't looked at the license plate. So, but we are going to get to work, and we're going to start tearing it apart and see what's underneath this thing. Okay, so we're going to protect this awning, but we also want to note that, I mean, we've already got a compromised fabric right here. Got another one right there. Looks like one right in here. Well, we got a few spots. Here's another one down here. One here. One here. So I'm sure it rolls in and out. Probably does. We haven't operated it, but we're going to protect it. But we just like to make notes of certain things, so you know, people don't think that we mess something up. The owner may know about it, or may not, because it's up here. He may not have even known about it, right? Because it's so far up. So these are some things we like to take note of. So we're trying to get everything off the roof now. That's what we're going to do. And then we're going to take this take the deck. I'm gonna take it all up. We're gonna look and see what's going on underneath, check all the trunk lines, check all the electrical, all that stuff. All right, so we're getting the roof deck off. They use glue, which is great. They had this glued down, so that's a plus. It was still 3/8. So now we're gonna check all the trunk lines, we're gonna check all that. And we found out what all this is up here, this deal that we saw, the big stack. It is an incinerating toilet that was installed by Little John out in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Not Little John, it was Little John. Echo John. And what's in there is called a Tiny John. And what they did is they had the stack coming right up, look at there. Right up through their ductwork. All their air conditioning. That's crazy. So the other thing I'm going to be looking for are these here. You got to get something in there. A lot of times these will get compromised just from the movement of the coach, you know, and it'll start scoring in there. So I like to check those, see how good they are, or bad, or whatever. We're going to put a bushing in there. That doesn't seem so bad, but it's still not a good mix. We're going to, for the long term, we're going to put something in there. We'll put like I said, a bushing. We'll get one of those. And then we got a couple of trusses to fix because when we pulled it up, broke a couple of trusses, so we'll fix all that. This one here split. It's just white pine. I mean, it's going to split. It's light. This stuff's real light. You look at it the wrong way, it's going to split. So that's kind of the advantage to the white pine, is that it is light. It's got its strength and its purpose. But you know, when you start putting this much stress trying to pull it off and everything, and it was glued, obviously it was bound. Something's going to happen. But that's no big deal. We've dealt with all this. We'll get it all fixed up. This is my bigger concern right here, is this mess right here and why they interfered with the ductwork. I personally don't like it. So, and somehow I got to get that. All their air conditioning, I'll go around the other way and show you. You probably can't see it that well. Let me go around this way. We got everything all wrapped up nice. There's a bushing there, which, you know, like you said, the 120 line should have had one. Look at that gaping hole. That is an enormous hole. All of that air is just blowing up in the, if you want to call it, this attic area, right up underneath the roof. We got some other little, I don't know what those are. We're going to vacuum all this up. I don't know what it is. Looks like some sort of frass or something. I don't know. I think that's what they call it. When bugs eat at something and they leave something behind, I think they call it frass. So we shall, man, that's really bugging me. I don't know. I've got to go in and see what all that nonsense is about. We also still got to do these wires right here too. Got to protect those. So we're going to get this all prepped up and everything, vacuumed out, and get all this mess out of here and put everything back. And then look at that again and see what the deal is on it. Okie doke. All nice and clean, vacuumed up. Taped up all of the trunk line. Got all that squared away. We want a new wire drop for a camera, so we just dropped that. There's a cabinet down in there, so we dropped it there. Needed power, so we brought power up. Took that. Then what else we do? Fixed our trusses. And then we got all the bushings in for the conduit. We fixed all these, stitched them all up, gussets on each side, so those are all nice and tight. Then we moved a wire or something around for the light. It was way over there. You had to walk up into the bunk way over there before you hit the light switch. So this is the hallway right here, so we just moved the switch there. And that's about it. So we got gonna get ready to put insulation in here. All right, so like I said, we got all this all done. And I don't think I showed you how we put the bushings in here. I've got them over there. And we got one more going in right over here on that one. He's doing that right now. And then we are ready to get some insulation put back in here, and then we're going to get the decking on. All right, we've got the roof all glued. We got the passenger side, that's already done. So you can see we've got our protective strips in there. that's where all the plywood comes together. Made some new shoulders, fabricated all new shoulders. So now what we're gonna do is roll this out. We'll just start cutting our holes and start assembling the roof back together. Now we're gonna use the big roller and we're gonna pack her down. You have to use this big roller. You have to use it. So, you don't, won't stay down good and tight. We want to stay down good and tight. We are done with our Cruiser Aire. There's our brand, RVRI. Completed September of 22. So this way we can keep track of, we put those on there so we can keep track of the roof, see how it's doing, that type thing. So this roof membrane, this is a 60 mil commercial roof. This is a real commercial roof membrane. The same exact membrane that you're gonna find on a hotel, office building, library. And this stuff is pretty rigid and it's strong. So that being said, sometimes when you come down, there may be a couple little squirrels over here like this. There's just not much we can do about it because of the construction of the material. Unlike RV material, commercial material, it has reinforcement in it for hail, to prevent like hail and, you know, even tree damage and so forth. And what that looks like, here's a piece of it right here. It's step over a little better light or something. But you can see those tiny little squares in there. And you can see right at the top here, that's the mesh. So you got nylon mesh in there. And that adds reinforcement, but at the same time, I mean, you only can do so much with it. So like right here, I see a few, but we got that as tight as we could. There's just nothing we could do because of the, again, the way the membrane is. So what you're looking at right here, this is where our new shoulder is. And we just kind of made sure it was, the shoulder itself is tight. We just, when we glued it, we just took a wheel and kind of pressed it in there like we did on the protective strips we got going around. So these ones don't need, these type of vents over here, we don't need to put any covers on them. They're self-done, I guess. You know, you can still open them up from what I gather. You don't put a cover on those ones. This is a solar boot you want to put on there. Up underneath that cover is some solar wires, and that's what all these studs are for. So we put all these studs down here. He's going to run a unibar down here, and then he's going to mount his own solar. So you can see we've got everything. All this is all heat welded in there. It's all heat welded. So it's not, there's nothing that can fail on it. It's done. And you can see the way we do our type of installation on these. And again, this is not, I want to reiterate that this is not a DIY channel. This is not a tutorial at all. If you can get some pointers out of it, great. But we get inundated with a lot of calls, and I just can't, honestly, I can't answer them all. So, and there's other things behind the scenes, and as soon as I answer one question, well, it comes back to, hey, well, what do you do about this? What do you do about that? And so forth. Next thing I know, I'm into a massive conversation about how to get something done. And if you don't know what you're doing, then it even makes it more difficult, right? So, but my point is, I put these together for the customer to take a look at. We appreciate everybody looking at them and watching them for sure. But really, that's the whole scope of it. That's why we don't have any Patreons, we don't have any sponsors, we don't have any of that. This is mainly, you know, the customer to take a look at it. So all that being said, these are all heat welded. All of these are heat welded. I fabricate every single piece that's on this coach. Every single piece I have made. So these are, getting back to the vents, as you notice, you can see how thick that is right there. That's the design. Part of it's part of the design of this. But when we put that on there, I put a very heavy bead of caulking, like it's really thick, about as thick as your finger, like literally. And I put 3 strikes of it around there. We take it, we nestle it down, just like that, and then it'll start oozing out. When it does, we come around with a tool and we kind of go around the edge of it. We let it sit. And then the next day we come back and we put screws in. We do that on purpose so we have a nice thick bed of caulking all around there. We don't have to worry about that thing leaking. We do the same, like, obviously, to this one and this one. So that's the way we install everything. We also put, when we do the air conditioners, we check to see if the gasket is bad. If it's bad, then of course we're going to replace it. So on the front of this air conditioner, as the water comes down, up underneath is the foam gasket. So what may happen is the water will come down and the wind as you're driving may blow it up underneath the cover into that foam gasket. Well, I don't want that to happen, so this is what this is, a piece of counter flash. It'll come down, hit this, it'll roll down, and then there's another piece of counter flash up here that I designed into the curb, so the water will drip down and go that way, and it's not going to get into that gasket. So that's the whole purpose of the front. We're doing all of them. We've got some stands on here. We've got some galvanized bolts that hold that whole assembly together so they don't rust. And then all of these are all galvanized bolts as well. Like I said, the customer is going to put all the unibar on and everything else. So go around this side. See, we got our boots in here, all heat welded. So these compromise a lot. Like when you climbing up the ladder, it's just, they wobble so bad that the base of it, because of the way they do it, and they just smear all that, you end up breaking the caulking loose. And we do have a lot of damage down this end on typical coaches, especially this design. We also had this other piece on this corner mold. It came up and it came over. See if I get back out of your way here so you see what I'm talking about. Let's try to look through the viewfinder here. It comes up and it went over here, and then what happens is the water will pool in here, and if this caulking fails in there, then it runs down the wall. So that's just not a good mix. So that's why we changed it and we moved that termination. This is a termination bar. We moved this down on the side instead of on top. We took care of that because it had them plastic shoulders on there. You don't need all that. We all heat welded all that all back together. It's fine. So that's why we did that. And then also on the bottom, I'll show you the ladder, but we put a support under the ladder to hold that. I believe we did on this one. Some of them we can, some are just a pain in the butt. Remember this deal. This was a stack. So my concern was how, this is for their incinerator. I was really concerned about how much heat that put out. And according to, what is it, Eco Johnny said it only, by the time it comes up here, it's only a few hundred degrees. So we were able to make the boot, put it in, remount everything. You saw that we had to remove it from the actual duct. They had it stuck in the ductwork coming through it and breached all that. So we had to move it over. And then this is a solar vent, a solar fan. So typically on your lenses right here, in the morning, especially now, coming into the fall, you have a lot of dew on there. And you'll notice when you get in your car, you'll have dew on your windshield as well. And you'll have it on the outside, you have it on the inside. Put the defrosters on, that takes care of the inside. And then, you know, you put your wipers on by the time you drive, you know, you clear all the dew off of the other side, the outside of the windshield. Well, on here, you have the same principle where you have the dew on here, and then you have the dew, condensation, frost is up underneath, inside. So now when the sun comes up, it's going to evaporate off what's here, but it won't evaporate what's inside, but it will warm it up. When it gets warmed up, it wants to come on down on the inside of the lens. It'll roll down, and then you end up having rot around the base of the shower. And people go up there and check and say, hey, my skylight is not leaking. Where's this water coming from? That's what it is. It's condensation from your skylight. So in order to get rid of this problem, I designed up, these are solar fans. So when the sun comes up to evaporate what's on here, this solar fan kicks on. And then what it does is, this is the draw. So we made a trough down inside there, and it goes up over the inner lens. So there's a gap there. You got the inner lens, then you got this lens. There's a gap in there. So that air will pull up over, and then it'll get exhausted out. And it'll stay going as long as there's obviously sunlight. So that's the best fix I could figure for it. It seems to work great. You also notice we don't put any screws in our lenses anymore. These turn to be problematic because the holes aren't right, but these things expand and contract too much that when you put them in there, you'll always get these little hair fractures. I've done everything I possibly could to try to minimize that issue. I've even drilled them out. But unless you drill it out and you put it in absolutely dead perfect in the center on every screw, if you do it on this screw, and then that screw isn't dead center and it expands, it's going to push or pull against that screw over in that area. You get a crack there, maybe not here, right? It's a pain in the butt, so we just glue them down now. So 2 strikes of caulking that we got all the way down. I always put 2 on here. There's one behind this is the gutter rail. There's one behind there as we mount it. That burps up. The caulking, as we push it in, it burps up. We strike it down, and then we go back with 1 strike. Then when that cures, we go back out with another strike. So we get it nice and tight. And the reason why we do that is if you've ever run a caulking gun, as you're squeezing the tube, you'll hear it pop and crackle. And when you hear it pop and crackle, basically you injected an air bubble. So the way these things rack and flex and twist, what I don't want to have happen is that air bubble basically breach because of the racking and flexing. So my thought is, let's put another layer over it. What are the chances of having one air bubble over another? So everything's got 2 strikes on it, even on the other side, back side. Everything we do is all got 2 strikes on the roof portion anyways. We don't do 2 strikes around windows and things like that, but we do go around everything else that we see that may be an issue. Like we put some caulking on here to make sure we didn't have any issues with this, but the scope of work on ours wasn't to go ahead and do a whole reseal on this. We were just basically putting a roof on, putting in a couple extra wires. We moved a couple extra wires around, and then you know, and obviously we fixed that, but you know, the scope of work didn't include doing a reseal of the coach. So and the guy who owns this coach, I want to thank for bringing him in, her for bringing it to us. We really appreciate the work. I know how far some people travel and how many RV centers they pass just to make it to my shop, and I'm honored about that. And that's why we take the time we do to make sure, because if people want crappy work, they can go get that locally. And you know, I really press on my guys to make sure we get it done 100% period every single time, and it's going to happen every single time. So but again, I want to thank them for that. So that's about all we got on. Oh, let's see, one thing I did not mention, and I'll get to that here. I'm about ready to pull this out. So this is our insert trim. Now keep in mind as well, we do not sell anything at all. All the stuff we have is all special order for us. This insert trim right here, I had to buy 2 miles of it in order to get it. That's a lot of insert trim. But you can see it's got kind of like a groove in it. See if I get the camera so you can see it. It's got a groove in it. And then that slides in, there's a track, and it slides in the track. This one is the original, does not. And it slides in the track, but it doesn't come over the track. So what this does is it comes over the track as it's sitting there, so all that water will roll instead of getting up inside here. Now, even on our case, even if water did get in there, it's not a big deal because we seal every single screw that we put in. This is kind of rigid, this particular, compared to the other one we have. Even the white is a little softer for some reason. But nonetheless, it's real effective, and it'll last a long time. So we appreciate y'all watching, and again, we want to thank the customer for bringing it to us, and we'll show you up on the next one. And if let me go down and take a look at the ladder. If there's something else I'm going to show you, I'll add it to the next clip. So what I'm showing you on here is this ladder. So these out supports right here, when you walk on this ladder, it will really tax it. Even though it's, you know, obviously secured to the roof there, still when you step on these things, you'll start jerking these down loose. So what we did is we put these right in here. Just extra support, right? So now all that weight is going right onto this bumper, okay? And we just riveted them in, so it shouldn't interfere with the stink pipe or anything like that. Still got to kind of get a blower back here and clean up off the back of this window. But I want to show you how we do it, and those aren't hard to do. You know, if you want to do them on your own, you could. It's just a piece of tube stock. Inside there are called star nuts, and you can find those on Amazon or whoever, maybe even eBay if you're an eBay fan. But the star nuts go down on the tube, and then you just cut the tube to fit and drop it in there. Same with there, and I just made a plate up, and we just screwed it in, painted them. You know, pretty easy on that end. So that's to me that's pretty important, because it also not only does it affect the actual pull of this, but see, it's going to take stress away from there, and it's not going to tax these screws. It's not going to cause a leak there, because you know, every time you got movement somewhere, you're opening it up for possible leaks. So that's the other reason. And again, someone comes in my shop and they go, hey, that looks great, I want to come take a look at it, and it's outside, and I don't have it in the shop where they can go finish looking at their roof. You know, I certainly don't want them to climb up a ladder. It's going to fall apart on them. So we also take all these screws out, and once we take them out, we check them, make sure they're not rusty or anything, and then I put some Loctite in there, and then we seal up all this stuff. Care package. Right. So in our care package, we have caulking, we got primer, we have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. we got a patch, peel and stick patch. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, and we'll simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through, and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof. It's leaking. So what you want to do? And it's raining out. Right now it's raining. You're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you're trying to do, you need to get up underneath the roofing, like this. This is what we need to do, get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. Just squeeze, squeeze. You're going to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Put some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. Just shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off. Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. So what we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You got another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. What you gonna talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that off because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. You're going to take that, you're going to go all inside the square. You're also going to go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. Get the fat fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. We put them in all the care packages. Get that daggone thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. There it is. Now you got the film. We take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That's simple. If it doesn't all sit in there, you can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we get that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this, because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch, and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.